Welcome to the Inspire London College. This is the assignment worksheet for Qualify Live 5 Diploma Research Project with the unit number H5059500. So in this video, I'll guide you specifically about the part 2 of research project in which you have to conduct a proper research, right? Now here you can see this is the title page, or you can also call it a cover page, in which you have to type the title of your own research project over here. And after this, there come the table of the content. This is where you have to list all the main sections of your project report and their corresponding page number. Now, once you have provided the table of the content, you have to write a brief abstract to your research project. Now, what this abstract is, so abstract is basically a very concise summary that provides a quick overview of your entire research project. Now, what you can include in this abstract part is like you have to discuss like what your research is, what methodology have you used, how have you collected and analyzed data, and what were your research findings. So these are the points that you need to discuss under abstract part, but make sure that you discuss this abstract part very precisely into the points, because you have to provide the detailed discussion on these in your further assignment. And another thing is that keep this in mind, that this abstract is all about your own research project. So it can never be general. You have to be very precise while writing this abstract part, and you have to link this with your own research project. Now, after writing the abstract, there comes the next section, that is chapter 1, introduction. This is where you need to set the stage for your research, in which the first part is the background of the study. So here you need to provide a comprehensive overview of your own research topic, in which you can explain like why your chosen topic is very important and what factors have led you to investigate this specific topic that you have chosen for your research project, right? Then there comes the problem statement. This is where you clearly and concisely state the specific problem your research aims to address. Like you can discuss like what gap in knowledge are you trying to fill, what issues are you trying to understand, and make sure that your problem statement should be very focused and very clear. Then you have to write the aims and objectives of the study. These are actually the main goals that you want to achieve with your research project. Like what exactly are you trying to figure out, or find out, or accomplish? And keep the two things in mind, like while writing the aims and objectives of your study, you have to use the bullet points. Like instead of using the paragraphs, make sure that you use the bullet points. And another thing is you are not required to add any references or citation for the both of the objectives and research questions, because these are your own project's objectives and research questions. So there is no need for any citation as well as any references for these two parts of the research project. After that, you have to write the research questions. These are basically the specific questions that your research project aim to answer. And again, you have to write these research questions in bullet forms. You have to avoid using paragraphs for this. And another thing is you have to use the word to while writing the research question. Like you can say to improve the process, to manage, to reduce, or anything. It could be anything based on your research project. Now moving down, here comes the theoretical framework. So theoretical framework is all about like theories. So which means like you need to outline the key theories or models of your research. For this, you can explain like how these theories are relevant to your topic and how you will use them to interpret your findings. After the theoretical framework, conceptual framework is also very important to incorporate. This is actually a visual representation, like a diagram that shows the key concepts, their relationships in your study. Then there comes the scope of the study. Scope of the study is basically the section in which you need to define the boundaries and limitation of what the research will cover. Like you can discuss what will you include and what will you exclude. So while writing the scope of the study, you need to be very specific, as this section outlines the specific focus of the research. Then there comes the definitions of the terms. This is the sections in which you need to provide the clear definition of any specified or technical terms that you use in your research project. So make sure that you provide a clear definition to all those technical terms. Then there is the significance of the study. Significance of the study is the section where you need to explain the importance as well as the potential impact of your research. So in this section, you can add the details like who will benefit from your findings, how does it contribute to the field, and what practical implications might it have in a very effective and precise manner. So at the significance of the study, the first chapter, that is introduction of your research project, ends, and from here onwards, the second chapter, that is a review of the literature, starts. So this is the critical part of your research project, where you have to review the existing research related to your chosen topic. Now, what you need to do in this section is you need to provide the key findings from any existing studies, along with highlighting any relevant themes, identifying any gaps in the research, right? And in literature review, you're also required to critically evaluate any strengths and weaknesses of previous work, showing how your study fits within this existing body of knowledge. And keep this in mind that while writing literature, you have to provide the citation as well as references for this specific section of your research project, right? Now, let's start discussing the chapter 3 methodology. So this is the section where you have to add details like how have you planned to conduct your research, stating like what type of study you're adopting, like whether it's qualitative or quantitative or any mixed method, and also specify the design, like either you are proposed a study is experimental, whether it's descriptive or a case study based. So in this section, that is methodology, you have to discuss the method that you will use in order to conduct your research. So in this methodology section, the first one is the data collection, right? Data collection is where you have to discuss like what method you use, like how have you collected the data for your research project. This section outlines the specific methods, like first, you need to identify whether you have used a primary or secondary data for your research project, and then you need to discuss like what tools you have used to gather the information, like have you conducted any surveys or interviews or any experiments or used any existing database. So in data collection section, you need to describe like your data sources, any sampling methods and procedures to ensure that your data is very reliable and relevant. And make sure that you must provide the evidences in the appendix section of your assignment. So it is necessary for you to provide the evidences of the data collection as well. Now, after the data collection section, there comes the data analysis. So data analysis is where you need to specify the statistical test or qualitative analysis technique that you have used in order to analyze the data. Like first, you have collected the data. Now you have to analyze the data, like what results you have found after collecting the information for your research project. So in this section, you need to mention like any software or tools that you have used for analyzing the data of your research project. And for this section also, it is necessary for you to provide the evidences of the data analysis as well. Like if you used any software or you manually analyzed the data. So you have to discuss and provide the evidences like what software you use, what specific tools have you used in the data analysis section. Now, there comes the research findings. So research findings are all you can say is the results. Like what are the results of your research? Like first you have collected the data, then you have analyzed that data using any tools or specific methods. So what results, what findings have you collected from analyzing the data. So here in this section, you need to present the key outcomes of your data analysis, right? You need to summarize the main results that emerged from your data analysis and make sure that the research findings are very clear. It must be aligned and are meeting the requirements of your own research questions and your research objectives. And remember this thing that you have to make a separate PowerPoint presentation file in which you have to write your research findings or the results of your research project, right? So what you need to do is you have to make 3 or 4 slides, or it could be dependent on your results or your research findings. So firstly, you need to write the title of your research project, and then you need to incorporate all the research findings and the results of your research project, in which you can incorporate the charts, any figures, any tables, or whatever your results are, whatever your research findings are. You need to incorporate all those in the separate PowerPoint presentation file, and do not provide the research findings or the results of your project in this Word file of your assignment, right? Now, after this, there comes the another section, that is summary of the research project. So this is the section where you have to provide a summary of the whole research project. Like, this is an overview of the entire research journey, starting from the planning to the analysis to incorporating the research findings to finding out the results and everything. All right, so you have to briefly discuss in this summary of the research process, like what have you planned, what actually have you done, what data you have collected, how have you analyzed the data, what results came out. So everything you need to discuss under this summary section of the research process. Then this is the last section of the assignment, or you can say the research project, that is critique of the process and limitations of the project. Now, what this section is, here in this section, you need to reflect on how effective your research process, your research findings, your research results are. In this, you need to discuss any challenges, any limitations of your research project as well. And you can also give the future suggestions for how these limitations could be addressed in the future studies, considering the overall validity and reliability of your research. Now, once you're done with discussing all these sections, you have to conclude the entire of your assignment. Now, let me clarify this to you, that this conclusion is not about your research project. Like, it's not the conclusion of your research project. This is the conclusion of whole of your assignment. Like, you have to discuss generally, like what have you gained, what is the summary of your assignment, what are the important points of the whole of your assignment, because the conclusion of your research finding you already have discussed that above. So in this section, you have to provide the overall summary of your entire assignment in this section. Now, moving down, here comes the bibliography section. So this is where you need to provide the references of all the sources that you use for collecting information for your research project, and make sure that you provide these references in proper Harvard referencing style. Now, this is the last section of the research project, that is appendix. So this is the section where you need to add the evidences, like if you conducted any interviews or surveys. So you have to add the responses of those surveys and interviews in this section that you are not allowed to incorporate in between of your assignment. And if it is not applicable to your research project, so you can skip this step. But if there are some evidences, there are some responses, so you have to incorporate those evidences in the appendix section. So this is all about the assignment worksheet of Qualify Level 5 Diploma Part 2 Research Project.